Wow. Did you hear that? Recording in progress. That's new. Well, welcome tonight. This is Continuing Ministry Education, Part 8. No, I didn't do it. Zoom must have done it. Part 8. The next 2 weeks, take them off, because we're going to go into the second half of the type of class if there's anybody left. So let's see, this is 23rd. So take the 30th off. 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31. So it would be about May the 6th, June the 6th. That is Pentecost. Not July the 6th, as I sent out in error. By the way, we're going to have a service on Pentecost, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Perhaps you'll take part with me. Got a Pentecost liturgy for you. And hopefully by the time we get finished with it, the skies will roll back as a scroll. Tongues of fire will fall out of the sky. We'll have a new Azusa Street. Yes, if you can come at 2 p.m. That was nice. I made one of them. I enjoyed it a lot. I had to leave early, though. There are just a few of us here. It seems like prayer is probably the last thing that people want to do corporately. As for me, I didn't like corporate prayer meetings because for many years I spent time in one. I had to go to it. And what it turned out to be is a certain ladies in the crowd use their prayer time to literally talk about somebody else. It's like a center for gossip. It's like a couple of these ladies, could be men too, were trying to tell God what was going on with so-and-so who was having trouble in their life. Like, oh, God, Lord, don't forget little Mamie down on the corner. She has lipstick on her teeth. Ay. Let us talk a little about personality profiling tonight. And I know we have some experts here on this. And I'm glad that you're here today. These Browns, they're experts. They use this in their daily life, as have I. One of the things that really kept my second marriage going for years, 2 decades before she passed away, was the fact that we studied Enneagram together and we studied temperamental analysis. And the reason we did is because that would give us 2 ways to stay together as a couple. One way is that we would invite the Ruach HaKodesh in as a third partner, because 3 strands is not easily broken, according to Ecclesiastes. The Spirit is always there for you to appeal to and to call out to. But then again, when we had perfect knowledge of each other's personality through studying these things, we pretty much could predict how the other one was going to act. And because we can only change ourselves, we can't get anybody else to change. We could change ourselves in order to remedy whatever kind of trouble we had in our personalities or arguments and so forth. We would use these tools, and they were very beneficial. And I think maybe some of you do this to some extent, those that are married. You just about have to, or you can live. Yes, you can live in hell in a marriage. My first marriage, but then again, you've got to know the person you're marrying a little bit before you marry them, because you don't know what you're going to get until the ceremony's over, really. But this has really helped. And we're going to start with Romans 12, which I'll put it up here on screen share. Because I think one of the first indications, at least in the New Testament, we get of knowing your partners, knowing your friends, knowing your family's personality is in Romans 12, because they have charismata in there. And charismata means favors. Look, having gifts, they translated gifts, not right. The Greek word is charismata, that differ according to the grace, which is the same word, charis, which is singular. Charismata is plural. They translate one wrongly as gifts, and the second one wrongly too as grace. They should both say favors and favor. But that's the problem with our popular translations of the scripture, is that we're pretty much at the mercy of the translator, or really the denominations that get together to publish the Bible. And perhaps we can use this as a little bit of a devotional. For as in one body, soma, we have many members, and all the members do not have the same function. So we, though many, are one body in Christos, and individually members one of another, having favors that differ according to the favor given to us. Let us use them. And then there's 7 here. If prophecy, in proportion to our faith. As we go through, think of these gifts, these favors, as persons, personality types. Like, for instance, you can pretty well get an idea of the behavior of a prophetic type person. You'll often see them with a finger pointed in your direction and some type of command for you to do. Sherry's here. So if prophecy, in proportion to our faith, if service, in our serving, the one who teaches, in the teaching, the one who exhorts, in the exhortation, he who contributes, in liberality, he who leads, with zeal, he who does acts of mercy, with hilarity. That's the Greek word behind cheerfulness. Hilarious, acts of mercy. Let agape be genuine. Hate what is evil. Some say that Paul does everything but quote the Dead Sea Scrolls and the apocryphal wisdom of Solomon, which I hope to bring a little into this tonight, but I couldn't quite find what I was looking for. How about people? Let love be genuine. Hate what is evil. Can people be evil? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yahweh says, I hate them with a perfect hatred. Dead Sea Scrolls says to hate them. And I don't think it's just hate what they do, because sin and iniquity isn't just what they do. Iniquity, as far as I know, is inborn propensity to do evil. I mentioned the other day, let's stay away from evil people and we'll have a much better life. But hold fast to what is good. Now, using these terms as people types, we have 7 terms here. I put together, about 25 pages, I suppose, on motivational personality profiles that I wrote myself because I wanted, for one thing, to research with other people if we could make 7 different profile types out of what Paul here calls charismata. And the only way I could do that was to write myself some assessments, put them out on the internet and offer them free, offer to assess them free. There were 8 profiles: motivational gifts, personality, Enneagram, temperament analysis, 5 temperament types, and on and on. And I allowed people to go out there and do those free of charge. And I would then assess them if they would finish them all up. So in the course of 10 years, I was able to get some number over 1,000 different profiles of people who took the assessments. I was able to assess those with the keys that I put with my profiles. And not only that, but prayerfully going through, after a while, the Holy Spirit of discernment started coming into my mind and showing me things about these people that they needed to know, as though I was actually prophesying into their lives, which I'm very concerned about doing, because there are so many false prophets around these days, and I certainly don't want to be put in with that pack. But I began to do that because I did so many assessments, it started to come natural to me. And I was able to collect the data, and I made some modifications to this, because I say that there are really not just 7 charismata here. There's got to be 9. Look, prophesying as a personality type, serving as a personality type. Notice for people that are serving oriented, one thing you don't want to miss about them is to give them credit for what they do. Serving motivated individuals will, by and large, have a blow up or an emotional puke if they don't get some acknowledgement for their serving. You know, and you're in a church, for instance, the woman that cleans the kitchen, or the man that cleans the kitchen, or the man that does the volunteering as a janitor. You need to go and give them a little bit of what they're due, or you're going to have an emotional puke on your hands at one of these times, and it'll probably be in front of a crowd. Same thing with the prophesying type individual, giving directives to the group. It'll go from being directives for an unhealthy person to giving orders. And sometimes it'll get to the point where, thus saith the Lord. The Lord's telling me that you need to do this, etc. Teaching motivated people, they're more melancholy, they're quieter. My motivation is teaching. The 4th one is exhorting. And this one, by using the assessments that I had for data, This has got to be two different types. One of those types is the encouraging type person. Enneagram type 7, if you know what I'm talking about. And then there's also, under exhorting, the motivating type person, which would be an Enneagram 3, for those of you who know what I'm talking about. Exhorting is broken down into two, encouraging and motivating. I noticed with a lot of people that came in under exhorting that they were either one of these, an encouraging type person, a type 7 person, a very social and direct person. And then there was another group that motivated other people to get things done. For instance, I'll help you. Yes, you can do it. Or if they're in the MLM business, yes, you can make all the money that I make. All you have to do is get in my downline. I'll help you every way I can, and I'll get a little something out of it. So the motivating individual is going to get a little something out of their motivating. The encouraging individual just gets a lot out of flapping their jaws, pretty much. Encouraging. It's always giving you encouragement no matter what happens. Number 6 is contributing or giving person, and that the modifiers after that was with liberality. Give what you can, give enough. The downside of contributing is that there are some people that would rather give to a cause than support a family. They actually give themselves into poverty, which doesn't sound like a cardinal sin or anything like that. But I've known a lot of families that have suffered for that very reason. The next was leading, or some Bibles say giving aid or helping. In the assessments that I did, it led me to believe the people that came in under the leading motivation were actually two different kinds of leaders. One was the out front leader, and one was leading from the rear, the manager. The one that likes to get out front and lead you to victory, and then there's the one that works behind the scenes trying to figure out how to pay for it. And then number 9 out of the 7, mercying, or caring, or caretaking. There's something very similar to this in the Wisdom of Solomon, as I mentioned. I believe that Paul got a lot of his motivation from the Wisdom of Solomon. Some beautiful passages in that apocryphal book. But this gives you kind of a precursor to what we're going to talk about tonight, the Enneagram. Notice that we've gone from 7 to 9 here, not because we needed to, but because the evidence showed that if we understood these as personality types, there really need to be 9. So you take away 2, add 4, and that gives you 9. Then we have Avigrius Ponticus, one of the desert fathers, so-called. Desert fathers went out into the deserts of Egypt and or Syria. They lived a very solitary life. They lived on very little food. They usually expected people who revered them to give them something to eat, or they might walk 10 miles just to have a meal of olives and perhaps a little bit of fish. And they also had trouble with sexuality. There are a number of accounts I've read where the heads of the desert father types admonishing the other ones to stay away from children. This almost precludes a modern problem that we have with men and sometimes women that are celibate. It's absolutely destroying the Catholic Church, and that is sexual immorality. So here's Avigrius. This is some of the most interesting stuff you can read, because he talks all about the types of demons that cause solitary folks to fall. First, that of gluttony, that of sexual immorality, love of money. Nobody got rich out there. That of sadness, anger. These are underlying sinful conditions that he's talking about, that people have, that motivate their every action. The sixth is Acadia. What is Acadia? Why did they leave that untranslated? I think a word that might cover it is, and I might be wrong here, ennui. So bored with nothing to do that you go off into fantasizing. Maybe we'll look a little farther down. Seventh, vainglory. And eighth, of pride. So we're getting closer here to that 9. And he goes through and explains each one of these 8 and how it works within the person motivated by that particular cardinal sin. I want to see if Acadia is in here. Yeah. I have not really seen a translation of this, but Avigrius talks a lot about it in his Practicos. Maybe some of you had a chance to read some of that Avigrius that I put out there for you. The demon of Acadia, and that's how that is pronounced in Greek, Acadia, which is also called the noonday demon, is the most burdensome of all demons. It besets the monk at about the 4th hour, 10 o'clock in the morning, encircling his soul until about the 8th hour, around 2 p.m. First, see if you can come up with a better definitive term for this. If I can find it again. So, see, I'm kind of jumping here. It just jumped. Sorry. First, it makes the sun appear to slow down or stop. So the day seems to be 50 hours long. I think everybody in the world's had a job of some kind where that was true. You were so bored or you hated it so much. Every day was a drudgery just to get up. I certainly have. Then it forces the monk to keep looking out the window and rush from his cell to observe the sun in order to see how much longer it is to the 9th hour. And to look about in every direction in case any of the brothers are there looking at us. Who's watching me? Then it assails him with hatred of his place, his way of life, and the work of his hands, that love has departed from the brethren, and there is no one to console him. If anyone has recently caused the monk grief, the demon adds this as well to amplify his hatred of these things. It makes him desire other places where he can easily find all that he needs and practice an easier, more convenient craft. After all, pleasing the Lord is not dependent on geography, the demon adds. God is to be worshipped everywhere. It joins to this the remembrance of the monk's family and his previous way of life, and suggests to him that he still has a long time to live, raising up before his eyes a vision of how burdensome the ascetic life is. So it employs, as they say, every possible means to move the monk to abandon his cell and give up the race. No other demon follows on immediately after this, but after its struggle, and the soul receives in turn a peaceful condition with unspeakable joy, yes, especially when that 9th hour comes. And Avigrius goes on to talk about how one can chase these kind of demons off. The one he seems to have problems with the most is Acadia. Now, do you think, see if I can get a chat here. I want to give you a word. Sloth. Sloth is laziness. I think this is kind of like sloth mixed with fantasies. This word here, I don't even know how to pronounce it, ennui, but it came to my mind, and I'm not quite sure what it means. Let's find out here. Or even how to pronounce it. Anybody else want to try that? Feeling of listlessness and dissatisfaction arising from a lack of occupation or excitement. And there you have it from Oxford Languages. So we're looking here at two different types of, well, we call these encomiums, lists of things that could be considered not only to be lists of demons, but also personality types. Now, the Enneagram, the 9 letters, Enneagram, it's not New Age or anything like that. In fact, it probably derives from Paul. And it states that there is one cardinal sin, an iniquity really, born into each person that again has some control over everything that person does their whole life. And to be honest with you, it seems to me that Avigrius is talking about this. And of course, as I said, the Enneagram or 9-key personality profiler. This was a little bit of my old website where you could do the personality assessments. It was back in Web 101 days. I probably put these things up in 1995 or something like that. The 9-key personality profiler, the Enneagram, an ancient personality assessment method alluded to by St. Paul and used extensively by the Desert Fathers. Now, are you seeing the Discover Your Motivational Gifts page here?
Yes.
Okay. Look, my goal is to just give you a taste of a lot of things. If you find interest in these things, or if something happens that you want to try them out, or you want to get to know your family better, you can look into these things yourself. Is it helpful to you, Hopes? If you can, tell me your experience with it.
With the Enneagram, you mean?
Yeah. Tell us what you do and tell us your experience with it.
I'm a licensed counselor and I do individual counseling with people. Yeah, I have found it tremendously helpful in my work, and then just even in my personal life. I discovered it a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about it better than some of the other personality models that are out there is that idea of it has a lot of movement from letting you know what, with your particular bent, if you will, like what you're going to look like when you're in a healthy state or an average state or an unhealthy state. And then also it talks about the movement that happens if someone's in a state of stress or if they're in a time of growth, to whether they kind of take on the qualities of a different number. So there's just a lot more fluidity with it than other systems have. And then I think it also provides a path for growth with that idea that there is this, whether you call it besetting sin or however you want to frame it, but something that keeps consistently tripping you up. So I think if you can be aware of that, you have a much better chance of being able to adjust your relationship with it and move to a healthier space.
I think one of the most important things, like you said, is the gauge of health. Because if a person who is a personality type is in bad mental or spiritual health, then you can predict what may happen. Like type 4, the actor, I think it's called, person with that type of personality, when they hit the rocks spiritually, emotionally, they're liable to kill somebody. Or other types are liable to go into a certain personality disorder, very serious. And you can actually use personality disorders as the basis for doing the prospecting on the personality types. Yes, very, very good. So let's go over to that. If I can find it again. And so for this particular model, I use these particular names. But you'll find, depending on the book you use or where you get your information, they'll call them all different things. So we can see the number 1 personality type, the perfectionist. Number 2 is the helper. You're already seeing some matchups here with Romans 12. Number 3, the achiever. That's the person who's a good motivator. The helper, a person who is a good server. Perfectionist, that is like the teaching charis, the teaching charis, the teaching favor. Type 1, teaching. Type 2, serving. Type 3, motivating. Type 4, the authentic individualist. I haven't really got a hold of that one yet, except that I know that if they get to the bottom, they could well murder somebody. 5, the observer. That's me. If you take my personality type for one, these people are very idiosyncratic. They believe in fairy tales. They're religious. They're religious. When they get unhealthy, they're liable to go down here and become an 8, which for me, this is the hardest personality type to deal with. Very bossy, very loud, usually. Yet this is what I become when I get really mad and upset. Each of these personality types, upon becoming unhealthy, you'll go to a different one. But that's a little farther along than I want to get. 6, loyalist. Those are good ones to have in your group. 7, the optimist. We would say that is the encourager in Paul's scheme. 8, as I mentioned, the powerful individualist. That could also be a prophetic type person. And 9, the peacemaker. That's another one that baffles me. My sidekick here for the last 10 years or so, before he got sick, my bodyguard was of the 9 personality type. Baffling. But you learn about these, and this is going to help you a lot in your life. Let's look at some of the actual characteristics of each type. I'm going to skip down here a little bit. By the way, on this page, I have these things for you in a zip file. The books that I have on here are the ones I would recommend. There are a lot of books out on the Enneagram that are completely New Age or that are completely Hindu. You don't want to get a hold of one of those because you'll find nothing in there that will be of much help to you, especially the Hindu ones. Maybe you've heard of Gurdjieff. He also used this, developed it pretty much. All right. The 9 key calls these prime addictions. One approach to the Enneagram finds its starting point in an idea that comes from Christian antiquity, the list of the 7 capital sins: pride, greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. Plus 2 more, fear and deceit. The word capital comes from Latin and means head. Capital sins are the head sins, or the prime spiritual and psychological addictions, the sources from which grow dysfunctional motivation and behavior. The word sin creates its own difficulties for many modern people. However, for our purposes, sin is defined as alienation from self and from the self, capital S. That is the imago within, the image. This alienation inevitably leads to personal fragmentations and to separation from others through unconscious, dysfunctional, and destructive behavior. That would really go along with the idea that a person is born in sin and sin is from the beginning, although I do not believe that's true. I believe more along the lines of the Roman Catholics believe that you are created as good as you could be created. I believe the original sin idea until I found out that I didn't need to believe that. In the Enneagram, these behaviors are seen as addictions to a particular way of perceiving life. The word addiction is not used lightly here. Webster's 9th New Collegiate Dictionary defines addiction as devoting or surrendering oneself to something habitually or obsessively. One's Enneagram number describes an obsessive way of approaching life, focusing in on one aspect of reality while discarding the rest. This addiction is so psychological blinding that it causes a distortion in perspective. Reality appears as illusion, and so we are not compelled to deal with it. Illusion masquerades as reality and entices us into collusion with it. That is such a good paragraph. So we're really not starting out with 9 cardinal virtues, but 9 cardinal addictions. These drives within the human personality cause distortion that prevents us from seeing or acknowledging the truth about our lives. Each of these 9 fixations of attention is so addictive that every person can only have one prime addiction at the root of his or her personality. When I was writing these assessments, these 8 or 10 assessments to put out on the web so I could gather up some material, some data for the couple of books that I wrote on the pneumatic and charismatic gifts or favors. I went into the local mental hospital. And I also went to see a psychiatrist because I wanted to know if I was really the person I thought I was. So I spent a little money. I did the MMPI and a couple other tests in the mental health hospital. And with a psychiatrist, I got a diagnosis. And when I got the results of that MMPI and the other tests, they don't call it mental health hospital anymore, Bedlam. They call it mental health hospital. When I read my profile that they gave me from their tests with questions on the test like, do you like mannish women? Do you feel like you have a belt on your head? Ridiculous questions like that. How could 200 of those questions describe anything? But when I saw the result, I thought, this can't be me. It can't be me, because it wasn't too good. Paranoia, dipping into 2 or 3 mental disorders. But I decided I'm going to take these assessments from these professionals and I am going to accept them and I am going to find my way back home. And ever since then, I've worked hard. That's been probably mid-90s, I'd say, that I went into that. I intentionally worked on these things with the hope that I could change the problems I had. And I begin to find out with these self-help methods like Enneagram and some other ones, I could change. Knowledge was the key to working myself out of a paranoid personality complex, out of being disgusted with social situations. I could work my way out. And as a pastoral minister, I really had to. No, I didn't like to go over to old people's houses and eat pie and drink coffee. I wanted to sit at home in front of the computer and do research. Now, I give you this a little part of my life because you have problems. You can work on them every day. You can remind yourself. There are methods you can use that are easy, that you can identify, again, some of these things that are bothering you and be done with them. Look, if the Father uses you in ministry, if he does, and we're hoping that Father will use you in ministry, you're going to have to be able to do this. You simply can't go and talk to grandma about all the problems in your life, unless, of course, she's rich and you need money. She tells you all her problems. You can't follow that. You have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You have to put a different perspective on everything, even if you have to lie to yourself. You can. And we can talk about that some other time if you want to talk to me about it, or I'll refer you to somebody. Right here is Hope's Lloyd Brown. Are you charging out of our ability to pay? Don't answer that. These prime addictions have led each of us to embrace illusion, absolutely, thus stunting our growth. And you can use the Enneagram to find out how your mental and spiritual health is. There are easy ways to assess yourself and to assess other people. And as we mentioned, it's not only what personality type you are, but what your spiritual and mental health is. If you're in a healthy spot, it'll tell you that. If you're in an unhealthy spot, it will show you how to bring yourself up to a higher perspective. That's why in a worship service, we often start by saying, lift up your hearts. We lift them up to Yahweh. It is a good and right thing to do. We have to embrace our weaknesses, but we can work on our strength. All right, what more here? Let's go on down. Read this whole thing. Here are some traits of each type. But first, before we look at that, let's look at the diagram, because the diagram tells an awful lot. These illustrations are almost illustrative enough to show us what these people are like. But look, they're all but one smiling, two smiling, three. Most of them are smiling. We're seeing these figures, these icons, in their healthy state. Except number 6, the loyal skeptic, or the loyalist. Look at mine, number 5. Leave me alone. Drama queen, number 4. Number 3, I call that the motivator. Every group that puts something like this out calls them something different. That's why we just use the numbers. The service motivated person, the helper, giver, servant. perfectionist, reformer, teacher motivated person. I'm not sure about this one. Hanging out with the Peacemaker for 12 years, but I'm sure about this one because I go there sometimes. 5, when he's unhealthy, he'll go to 8. See how the 5 connects with the 8? Unhealthy. When he's healthy, he can go to the 7. The enthusiast, the epicure, the encourager, let's say. Number 7. What's going on here? Let's see if we have any 1s here. I can only speak for my own type, but I have problems with 1s because I'm just the opposite of a perfectionist. 1 set high standards and expect the best out of both themselves and others. They expect the best out of you and they don't mind telling you. They're improving things, strive for perfection, dress neatly and appropriately, have a high level of honesty and integrity, are responsible, capable, dependable. They keep their word and can be counted on. They have strong self-discipline, judge things as either right or wrong, black or white, have lots of shoulds and oughts. They believe in and will follow rules. They're organized and orderly, like everything in its place, and have a place for everything. They feel they know what is truly correct and right, will strongly stand up for what they believe is right, and find it very, very, very difficult to compromise their standards. They would like everyone else to see and agree with their point of view. That's your type 1 perfectionist. Another thing I like about this particular scheme here is that I believe in these key traits. They go from the healthy to the unhealthy in each one. And you don't have to take an assessment to figure out your type. Just go through the descriptions and see where you fit. One Enneagram said that I was a 1, but I don't think I am Lal. We get to know you better. Let's go to Sukkot this year. Looks like it's going to work out. You spend a week with us, or we together, and this will be a cinch after that. It's a surprise what a feast can do. A feast can do for getting to know other people. Do I know a 4? Yes, I have relatives that are 4. I've got a niece that's certainly a 4. She's had a lot of problems in her life. Oh, I didn't know what Lal meant. Are you laughing out loud, Steve? It might just be because you're nuts. I don't know. And this is a little out of date. It has a list of persons for each one, each type. Most of them are pretty much dead. Have you younger people, have any idea who Ross Perot is? Ralph Nader? Hillary Clinton? She's definitely a type 1. I couldn't stand to be around her for 5 minutes. But I shouldn't say anything bad about ones because we got a couple ones in the group. I certainly wouldn't want to identify them. Weaknesses and strengths. Allowing themselves, ones, to be slavish about their sense of what's right and wrong, has a tendency to become dogmatic with inflexible options. Well, look, that beloved spouse of mine, the little missionary girl, she was a type 1. This is why we needed the Enneagram. She was a perfectionist type. I was the anti-perfectionist type. We needed help. How they tend to communicate. Preachy style. But they know how to do things right. Problem areas for each one. They believe that they're the only ones that can do it right. They grow by learning to let things go, encouraging others to do their best and acknowledging others for what they do to get done. I have a little folder down here by my desk that connects each personality type with a mental illness. That's really interesting. The type 2 personality type, the servant, the helper, the caretaker, the server, they enjoy helping others. Yes, they want to be needed. They need to be needed and need to be loved. They consider the needs of others before their own and act on their feelings. Act on their feelings rather than logic. They're considerate, warm, empathic, dangerous, like to nurture and care for others and listen to others from the heart. They easily give compliments, understand the feelings of others, look for the good in others. They accept others easily at face value. They like to please. They put a high priority on friendship. They have lots of friends and close relations and are good friends. Now, how about the other side of the coin? You've got to thank them. They're touchy, feely people. But they're necessary. These people are what Paul calls the more humble members. And here's the weakness of the type 2. Tendency to use their helping and giving as a subtle or not so subtle form of manipulation. Down deep, many 2s are looking for a return on their investment of helping and giving. Oh, I don't need any thanks, they say. Oh, think nothing of it. Think nothing of it. Then the next day, you'll hear the pots and pans flying around that kitchen. You'll hear the vinegar bottles being broken up against the wall. Nobody ever gives me any credit around here. How many times have I seen this and knew the person was a 2 and just waited for it to happen? They desperately want to receive tokens of love in return through acknowledgement, gratitude, and a show of appreciation from those to whom they gave. They tend to feel that they have no value in the world if they are not needed. If they get involved with a group or in a meeting and feel they are not needed, they will not participate and exit at the first opportunity, feeling it's a waste of time in order to go check check the waste paper cans around the office. If you're that type, you don't want to be that way, don't be that way anymore. Do a little work on yourself. Dictated by emotions. Fueled by gossip. Victimized. Let them be on a growth path as they learn to build their own self-confidence and depend less on others for their self-esteem. Self-esteem. Threes. I have a stepdaughter that's a 3. She's won all kinds of awards and made lots and lots of money in MLM. I don't know if she's still doing it or not now. But she was and is good at motivating other people to do things. Competitive and achieving. They're aggressive in getting tasks and projects completed, like titles and recognition and plaques on the wall. They dress for success. They're good at enrolling and motivating others and make a good impression. That's important to them. They're good at organizing projects and people, are good communicators, are doers, and like to accomplish things. They're proud of their success and accomplishments, are goal setters, decision makers. They are players versus spectators. They like to be part of the action. They are enthusiastic, social, and charming. And oh, how I wish I was a 3. I wouldn't be such an abject failure now. Famous people. Who's ever heard of Mary Lou Retton? Bruce Jenner? I think he's a woman now, isn't he? Funny. And then we have the weaknesses. Yeah, I wanted to look at that. Oh, but they're so good. They can make money. They can get you going. They can motivate you to come out of the slough of despond. 3s have the tendency to lose themselves in their quest for success. They come crashing down sometimes. They will adopt practically any look, speech, or attitude to be successful. They become driven by the trappings of success rather than what they really want. For some people, they appear as phony, a shell without anything inside. For the average 2 unhealthy 3, the fear of failure can become so great that they will do anything without remorse to achieve or maintain success. They will use unscrupulous and even illegal ways to be and stay successful, success at any cost. But they're bound to be successful. They could sell ice to Eskimos. Those are 3s. Please take these and read them thoroughly. Find out where you are. Nah, the assessments don't work very good. 4, they think of themselves as being special and unique, actors, individualists. They like spontaneity, but do not adopt easy to change, especially with relationships. Oh, I will die for my art. They tend to dress up and do things with some flair and style, good imaginations, artistic. They like poetry, very creative. They notice details and appreciate beauty, are sensitive to their own emotions, tend to overreact to criticism, take things personally. Whoa. Oh, surely you don't mean that. They feel misunderstood. are empathic to feelings of others, can get caught up in causes. They don't react well to expectations of others. They don't like to be part of the crowd or to feel ordinary because they're special, and if you don't believe that, I'm going to kill you. Exaggerating for effect. Well-known people. Oh, understand, it's fun to mimic the unhealthy side. But I tell you, if you had 9 people that were healthy and you could put them together as members, like Romans 12 says, what can't you get done? People get in the way of themselves. They're misunderstood. Empathic to the feelings of others, yes. Sensitive about emotions. Problems. The 5 personality type, the thinker, the observer, the philosopher. I know we got at least 2 on here that are 5s. Is anybody still here? We 5s are analytical and logical. We tend to be original, knowledgeable, insightful thinkers, are very independent, too independent. We dislike competition or any kind of supervision. Authority figures. Very self-sufficient, independent, private, enjoy being by themselves. Some people just say to me, oh, I feel so sorry for you. You're like a hermit. You're by yourselves all the time. What they don't know is we are our own best company. They like to observe rather than participate unless they're good at something. Then they get very competitive, highly reflective about everything in their lives. They think their life, their reality is not out there. Their reality is in here. What's real is in the mind. What's real is in the dreams. That's what's real. They're very curious, enjoy gathering information and knowledge. They like being an expert, are focused when interested, and need to get the big picture. They are emotionally detached. That's a hard thing for a 5 in a romantic or family relationship, because a 5 just doesn't have all that energy to get emotionally involved with too many people. 1 or 2, that's enough. That's all they can do. They're in the world of thoughts. They are reluctant joiners. They strongly dislike small talk and are generally not at ease in social situations. Oh, should I read you more good things about a 5? No, I guess I'll just have to go down here to find out. Look at this. Franz Kafka was a 5. Did you ever read his story, Metamorphosis? Anybody know what Metamorphosis? Go out there and type in Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. It's a rather short story. It's one of the weirdest stories you will ever read. Howard Hughes? Nobody knows these people anymore. Weaknesses. It seems to be the nature of the human system that many of our greatest strengths or what seem to be our strongest attributes, have a flip or negative side to them. Dun, 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 dun. In the case of the 5, their deep and sometimes all-consuming intellect may produce a detached hermit that only wants to be left alone with their ideas. Another major problem for 5s is that they many times appear like they prefer to be an outsider to others because participation in social groups outside of the areas that they specialize in tend to hold little interest for them. Actually, let me modify that a little bit and say we just don't have the strength for it. A further problem impacting their relationships is their tendency to have low tolerance for slow or mediocre thinking in others due to their keen and knowledgeable minds. Oh, this can cause a lot of problems. As I said, if they get overly mad and they lose their mental health, they're going to go to 8 and go pound somebody. Yeah, it's just happened to me. Go pound somebody. Thank goodness it hasn't happened for a very long time. Well, the problem with going and pounding someone is it's usually going to be someone twice as big as you, and you're going to end up on the ground with your glasses broken. Know what I mean? Type 6, the loyalist. I know 1 6, at least one. The loyal team member. These are nice people to have in the group. They're reliable, careful in their responsibilities. They have a strong sense of loyalty and duty. They can be threatened by too much change. They can also give a lot of money into the pot for a group project. Prefer structure, lean toward the tried and proven. They like clear rules and directions and can become stressed over instability. They are somewhat cautious, but if you encourage them, they'll jump off a bridge for you. Tend to worry that things might go wrong and prefer the older and wiser to make decisions. Team up a 4 and a 5, or a 6 and a 5. Team up a 6 and an 8. You get a lot done. Take their responsibilities seriously. They're hardworking, dependable, faithful, trustworthy, and true champions of their causes. Okay, what about the bad side, the unhealthy side? Threatened by change. They don't want to change. They're scared of change. Mary Tyler Moore, Oprah Winfrey. 6 key type may have a tendency to become a blind follower, putting all of their trust in an outside authority, looking to others for acceptance and not trusting own judgments. In lower levels of mental health, the 6 can turn very fearful, always assuming the worst case scenario, doubting their own decisions and being hobbled by procrastination about everything and everywhere. This is when they're not healthy. When they're healthy, there's no procrastination. They get it done. As 6s decline to lower levels of mental health, they have a tendency to become insecure, anxious, unable to contribute to anyone or anything. They just shut off. If they get down that low, they just shut off. Or, as I witnessed in this last year, they will change their religion. They'll make a complete break. As their level of self-doubt and self-worth increases, they tend to view their world as a series of problems and to procrastinate and avoid making any decisions, being able to see only the problems involved. And my friend, that is a 6, it has just made me sick to see her go down the drain. But I know healthy ones too. See, I think you can tell where you are the best by going to these growing edges, problem areas, growing edges. Sevens, the optimistic generalist, the encourager, the socialite. They're good conversationalists with a broad knowledge of a number of subjects. They're flighty. They're fun to be around, that's for sure. They usually have lots of friends and relationships. They're good socializers. They like to dance. They know the twist. They know the Watusi. They know the animal. They enjoy being the center of attention. They're generally optimistic, enthusiastic, lighthearted, and dislike being bored. Oh, let's go out again tonight. Come on, let's go out again tonight. Oh, we just went out to the Ritz last night. No, that was so long ago. Come on, I'm in the car. They're in constant motion, continually on the lookout for fun and enjoyment. They make lots of plans, like to experience new things and adventures. They are outgoing, lively, good-natured. They tend to put off unpleasant tasks, avoid handling problems. They are promiscuous. They like to have options. They can juggle multiple projects, tasks, relationships. They're generous, jack of all trades. They're often rebels. They have a difficult time with authority and dislike being told what to do. And as her old boyfriend said about my first wife, whatever Donna wants, Donna gets. Do, 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 do. What she wanted, she got, no matter what she had to do. Till finally, she got a nice set of papers. Kind of flighty, very social. So much fun to be around. Even a 5, even a 9 wants to be around them. Problem areas, they are easily bored. They don't like to focus on anything for too long. They love to hear themselves talk. They have a difficult time being able to really listen to what others have to say. It just goes over their head. Growth comes with learning how to slow their minds down. Listen to others. Acknowledge what they say. They fantasize. What else can I do? Where else can I go? What new clothes can I get? They're growing as they learn to be more realistic about what is truly of value in their lives rather than only what's possible. Oh, yes, I did go to bed with him, but why do you care? I'm still cleaning the house when I need to. Exaggerating just a little bit. Low patience level, just like waiting for anything. Growth comes as they learn we have to laugh together. We're all in the same boat. Let's face it. They don't like authority figures telling them what to do. They'll hop in the car and they'll be gone for a week. Come back broke. Or they'll say, come along, let's go have some fun. You might not get back for a week. You'll be glad you went. They ignore problems or difficulties in their life. They leave them up to the 8s, the 5s, or the 6s. The 8 key personality type, powerful individualist. The prophetic type from Paul. They control. They're in charge. They're loyal to those close to them. They're assertive. They'll fight for what they believe in. They're down to earth, identify with patriotic heroes, are strong and self-confident, love challenges. They don't mince words. They tell you what they want and when they want it. They're honest in speaking their minds. They're blunt. I tells it as I sees it. They're aggressive. They're at ease in tough situations, make gut decisions, are confrontational and stubborn, strong, formidable negotiators, but respect strengths in others. They're powerful and self-confident, prefer to give rather than take orders. Whenever possible, they'll take the lead. They promote their own authority. They have a strong work ethic, push themselves hard. They overcome challenges to get away what they want and believe have coming to them. They'll take what they want. My type does not get along with this type, but as you know, when we get upset, really upset, we go to this type. I'm glad I got this all figured out. Don't have any problems like this anymore. You've had bosses like this, certainly, or you've had spouses like this. John Wayne, Charles de Gaulle. I'm sure a lot of people today know who that is. Richard Burton. Communicate, I think it comes up here. They're effective leaders, all right. They'll demand that you follow them. 8s in the lower levels of psychological health fight only for themselves, using the law of the jungle. That might makes them right and anything goes to get them what they want. You know people like that? Hey, they've got their good side too. The 8s drive for power, can turn to violence, deceit, ruthless destruction of anything or anyone. Their innate sense of weakness in others is used to take advantage of them. At the lowest levels of mental health, their need for control can become so all-encouraging that it leads only to anger, isolation, confinement, threats, abuse, homicide. And we got one more. The big puzzle, the 9 puzzle. Peacemaker. I heard one call this the Sloth maker. 9s usually go with the flow. Oh, call it passive aggressive. Optimistic and agreeable with just about anyone. They seem to be able to adapt to almost any situation, and they're able to see both sides of almost any argument or position. Some schemes call these phlegmatic personalities or supine personalities. Being the peacemaker, they have a preference for being around peaceful people and harmonious situations. They tend to be very open-minded and receptive to the opinions and viewpoints of others. Even when they do get angry, they tend to contain their anger and rarely show it. Their philosophy seems to be, why get worked up about something that'll probably blow over and disappear soon? The way of least resistance. They also like gossip. Edith Bunker, Commander Lee. It seems to be concerning weaknesses, the nature of the human system that many of our greatest strengths, what seem to be our strongest attributes, have a flip or negative side. In the case of 9, by being so soothing, harmonious, and nice, usually means not standing up for what is important to them. As a result of their always wanting to avoid any type of conflict or stress, they tend to act like an ostrich, put their head in the sand. Out of their tendency to avoid problems, many times, true, the problems grow bigger and bigger and bigger until they're forced to attend to them or until they fall over with strokes. That's my bodyguard. Because the average 9's motivation is to avoid conflict at any cost, they have a tendency to avoid much of life altogether. In many cases, their avoidance of conflict in reality can turn into a drain of energy for the other people in their lives, who must make an extra effort to get the 9 to do something. Sometimes just anything. In declining levels of psychological health, the 9 may become so totally self-doubting and indecisive that they might become totally immobilized and paralyzed. That's literal. That's literal. Let's see. This is revised 2011 and 2005. I would have guessed it was before that. Anybody left here? Let me look at the chat. You're 9. Hitler, wouldn't you say an 8, unhealthy 8? I would like you, the Cotton-Eyed Joe. Oh, see, well, you know some of these people. Go read Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka, and you will know more about changing than this will ever teach you. If you don't know anything about that story, it's about a man wakes up one morning, gets up to go to work, and he finds he's becoming something. As you go through, try to guess what it is. Don't sneak ahead and look. Don't look at any reviews. This is a famous story. If you like that one, there's another book that he has, a lot of them. One is called The Arrest of K. K, just the letter K. Last story? No, but there are movies with Kafka. They're bizarre. I'm trying to think of the name of one. I've read one of those books, of his books, several times because I liked it so much. Mostly they're like Animal Farm. You know, they're on communism, the subject of communism. Let's see if I can find the name of this one. Metamorphosis, yeah. Metamorphosis will take you an hour to read. Kafka's The Trial. The story of Joseph K. Tells the story of Joseph K., a man arrested and prosecuted by a remote, inaccessible authority, with the nature of his crime revealed. There is a film, 1993 and 1962. The nature of his crime revealed neither to him nor to the reader. Nor to the reader. But then on the Metamorphosis, think, you get to about page 20, what is he What kind of a person is he turning into? Okay, well, that's enough for Enneagram today. And you take that, and as you read through, what helped me with these things is to visualize someone you know that fills that bill. And I was doing that as we went through today. And I could get at least one for each one of those now. Steve, you can do a book report on the trial. I give you 1 point extra credit. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. I'll send you in the next couple weeks an email to see what we're going to do, probably a poll of some kind, and probably put up a third review. I love you all so much. I'd even hang around with you, probably.